just met, I sent you a copy of my book. Did you receive it?
I have it right here on my desk.
Today, if you are open to it, I know you haven't read my comment on you, but the reason I wanted to talk with you, Todd, when I met you at the show, the way you greeted me, a person you've never met before, you treated me as if I was the only person that mattered. And you exuded what I call hospitality. So I wondered if today we could talk a little bit about that. Like,
I'd love to. It's my favorite part.
why is it your favorite part?
Well, if it's all about money at the end of the day, you're never going to give the experience that people deserve. Because if you're worried about how many shekels you get at the end of the year,
Yeah.
then you're going to cut corners on cutting the grass, cut corners on capex, cut corners on everything else. In my personal world, we've always put the business in sort of this order. Our colleagues are always first, and so I don't have any employees. I have all colleagues. Every one of them are. There is virtually no hierarchy in our organization. It's very flat. As a matter of fact, up until 10 or 15 years ago, I didn't even put CEO on my business card. And when they made me do it one time, I put farmer on there because that's my like passion. And then they made me do it the real way because, um, you know, I don't. I'll to be completely transparent with you. I don't even know how to. I don't have a key to a single hotel or campground in my entire portfolio. There are actually assets that we own that I've never seen before, and so I had these amazing individuals, and every single one of them, from the oldest individual that's been working for me time wise, all the way to the newest. They're the ones that drive the heartbeat of the company.
Yeah.
I'm helpful in creating the culture and having the vision in the future, but they're the ones that are day in and day out doing the hard work. My work's not that hard. It's pretty easy, really. They're the ones that have to show up every day when it's been your baby's been up all night crying, or
Yeah.
you have a family tragedy and you just have to pull through, or whatever it may be. They're the ones that have to show up every day, be present, and be happy. And so we have this corporate philosophy that all of our colleagues are first. And we even have something that's called Todd Day around there, and that is not everybody can be happy every day. Todd's not happy every day, right?
Yeah.
It's impossible. Wish we could, but we can't. And so if you come in some days and you're just not there, you can go home and it doesn't go against your PTO.
What you are doing with that one statement is tremendous. It's like you're safe here. So you're
Yeah.
communicating it's safe to be you and it's
Yes.
safe to be human.
Yes. Well, and just
Really
in that
powerful.
same vein, the other thing, and everybody will tell you, I say this 1,000 times. I will be upset with you if you're not stubbing your toe every single day, which means some form of failure. Where I will be upset is if you stub your toe on the same threshold day in and day out, right? But
Yes, right.
go out there and fail, because if you're not failing, you're not innovating. And if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. And if you're not trying, if you're too worried about everything being perfect, then you're not doing the best service to yourself, the company, your own your own growth, everything. And so I encourage all of that. And so all of my colleagues, I have an open door with all of them. Very flat organization. I hate being called the CEO.
Mm.
I sit at a table with some of the brightest people in this industry, and it is not an oligarchy at all. Todd, all I do is I give my opinion, and then if there's a tie, I'm the tiebreaker, and
Yeah,
that's it.
it's amazing. You're so humble. It sounds like everything you are doing is designed to encourage engagement with your colleagues, with your staff, your team members, whatever term, your family, which is
Yeah,
really what it
it
feels
is.
more like your family, you care about them. What are some other things that you do for to build your culture?
It's a great question. So we always have retreats. We always so we have a big one coming up in a couple weeks. It's just people flying in, GMs, AGMs from all over the country, and we spend the week together, talk about the new year. We do team building events, all that fun stuff. The other thing that we do, and I really don't like to even talk about some of these things, but just because you ask and I want to be fully transparent,
Mm.
I paid for more funerals this past year than I don't even know the people's names. So these were people that were either an integral part of our community, as in Blue Water community, or they're actually, staff spouses or whatever it may be. We had a massive, unfortunate event of a beautiful young girl. She's 16 years old. Her mother works for us down in Virginia, and she was diagnosed with cancer. And I just bought a brand new home in Isla Mirada, Florida, and uh, all the daughters wanted to do and the moms and the family was go down to Florida. And so they went to the house. I never even stepped foot in it. They were the first ones to ever sleep there.
Wow.
And so we sent a boat down for them, made sure everything was okay. But we try to do it as if they're all part of the family. Now there's limitations, right? At some
Right.
point, but whatever we can do within our powers to try to make sure that that people are treated like family. That's what we do. Every time we call them blue babies. Every time a blue baby is born, they get 6 weeks of meals deliveries for 6 weeks, so that the mom and the dad can just
Nice.
focus on the child, and that they don't have to worry about food for. And if they need it longer, they need it longer. If there's a death in the family, with a spouse or a grandparent or whoever, we do the same thing for them. We've done the same for clients that have been there. This past summer, a little fella fell into a fire and burned himself pretty bad. He had to go fly to Boston's Children's Hospital, and wasn't our fault. That we've done nothing wrong, and we just paid for the parents' full stay and the child's treatment and the grandparents' airfare. But it's part of what we do. If you're not focused on the dollar every single day, then it's more focused on the community, and and the my colleagues and our guests are part of that community.
This is the absolute essence of the heart of hospitality. This is what I felt when I met you. I didn't know all these things. I just know,
Mhm.
how in hospitality, no matter what version, indoor, outdoor, it
Yeah,
doesn't
sure.
matter, restaurant, bar, anything, any kind of customer service. When you experience it, you just know it. You feel it. It's love, basically. It's kindness. It's other-centered focus, right? And what
Right.
you are doing is remarkable with your colleagues, your staff, your team, your guests, all of them. You're living and breathing this in everything you do. So no wonder your resorts reflect that. It's such a different approach, right? Than like the outside in approach where here's our mission statement and now we're going
Right.
to go slap that onto everything and up the revenue and like you're saying, that's backwards and it's not sustainable and people sense it. They may not
Yeah.
know what's wrong, but it's how you feel.
Right.
Um, wow. I did not expect all of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I could go on and on and on, but just
I
this past summer, I sent a friend to a hotel that we own in North Carolina, and he said, I don't know what the kid's name, but there's an 18-year-old boy who every single day was taking care of me on the beach. He said, if you had an entire staff full of those types of individuals, you know, you would be the best in the business. And so I wrote the kid a note and gave him $500 and mailed it down to him. And he called me up almost crying. I was like, I just want you to know you're doing a great job.
Ah,
And so, you know, you impacted a friend of mine. And so you needed to know how impactful you are. And so when you empower and you make it impactful, because even what we do even further is it doesn't matter who the guests are, but if somebody has a special occasion, any staff is allowed to get flowers sent to the room, a bottle of wine sent to the room, and it's all in the house, right? We you take care of the colleagues and they're super happy. The guests, what you try to do then is to make them super happy, because if you have happy colleagues, it'll trickle down to the guests, because our resorts are always going to be first class.
yeah,
And what we try to do, even in our hotel platform, so by way of example, Ocean City, where we live and got started, it has 118 hotels within 7 miles, right? So we're competing with 117 other hotels. So how do you make yourself different from everybody else?
right.
And what we do is we try to build resorts within the resort. And so
Okay.
every single hotel we have, we were the first ones to do it. We rented the beach stands in front of them, in
Mhm.
front of each of the properties. They used to be leased out, and people would go rent the beach stands. We went and rented them ourselves and gave it to our guests free as part of the experience, right? And so
Fantastic.
yeah. So, and we also always provide kayaks and canoes and everything else for free. Well, in the hotel business, nobody's ever done this, right? They just normally a hotel is a place to lay your head, and then you go out into the town and do what you want to do. What we try to do is create the resort within the resort, make it so you want to stay, and maybe you go out for dinner, but you come back because you love it so much.
Right.
And so we make our lobbies engaging, we make them, we make multiple sitting areas for everybody, for little groups. It can be a congregation area. It's a place to communicate. You know, a lot of times you go in the hotels, people hit the button in the elevator and they don't even look up to see who their neighbors are or say
Ah,
anything, right?
right,
And
right.
so we try to change that whole aspect from the minute you walk in the door.
What happens the moment I walk in the door? It's I'm gonna be greeted by a human, right?
Absolutely. Every
Yeah.
single time.
Um,
They're going to welcome you. They're going to offer you a bottle of water. They're going to see if they can be helpful with any luggage you may have. They're
mhm,
going to see, if it's in the campground, we'll get you straight to your lot, help you get set up. Then we'll check in later, so you don't have to worry about all of it right then and there. It's not like they're going to go anywhere,
right.
right? We can always come back at your convenience. They
Yeah,
probably just got done driving for 6 or 8 hours.
exactly,
They don't want to stand in line. If
exactly.
check-in is for 4 hours, they want to get straight to their lot, start setting up, let
Yeah.
the kids out so they can run around, start riding their bicycles, get their energy out. So the idea is you have to, what I always try to do is put myself in the shoes of the guests.
Yes.
And so if Todd shows up and I have two little kids, well, they're not so little anymore, but two kids, they're antsy no matter what. You want to get them
Right.
out.
Exactly. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you have empathy for the guest, and I do wanna back up a little bit because what you said, I think, is so important, and so few people, I don't know why, because it's so intuitive, but so few people really do empower their teams or their staff to make these decisions. But what it does is not only empower them, but they then become your business. Like, it's their
And what
business.
I actually you we call every what most people call GMs of properties. I
Mhm.
call them the CEO of that asset.
Beautiful.
They're the CEO of that, not me. I don't know. I can't be at that place every single day. They are the
Right.
CEO of that hotel, campground, marina, whatever it may be. They're in charge of it. They are the CEO. They have full decision making capacities. They need to give away a free night. You don't have to call me. Just do it.
That
Do
is
what's right. Do what's right by the guest always. And the guest is always right even when they're wrong.
yes. When did that go away?
I don't know.
I don't know. That's it's so simple, isn't it?
It is.
To execute on these things. And what I see you doing is you're modeling this, like you are training people to pour out generosity. To me, that's a huge part of what hospitality is. It's being generous with everything, generous with your love, generous with the solution is always there. There's no
Right.
problem that is a problem because it's always an opportunity. And as you are modeling this for them, your staff gets to do this, and then what happens to the guest? They become delighted. I mean, I hate
Right.
using all these cliche words, but there's no other better way to say it. And they almost are overwhelmed, like people are not used to that. That
No.
that pouring, overflowing generosity, right?
Right.
That's very
No,
interesting.
but the and the other thing is what even on the business side of it,
Yeah,
it's 100 times cheaper to keep a guest than to go find a new
right.
guest. And
Yes.
so if you're able to keep everybody happy, we all stub our toes, we all always will, but always make it right, always invite them back, always apologize for your shortcomings, and celebrate their victories, right? And that's what we try to do.
Really nice. Yeah, it's basically have a human relationship
Yes,
instead of
exactly.
trying to turn it into some, strategic operations manual. You
Right.
can kind of break right through all that, right? So talk to me a little bit, if you would, Todd, about the transformations that you've had, because I've heard a little bit about your story of starting, like you kind of didn't even mean to get into the outdoor hospitality space.
No, right.
That's
It was a complete mistake.
which is
I don't know
great.
if you do you want me to go all the way back and did the
If
nickel
you
tour of it?
if you don't mind, like I think it's a charming story. I don't know how many people have heard it, and I'd love to hear it again. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
So when I got out of college, it's a family business. It's my father and I. We started Blue Water in 2004, but before that, he had always been in land development, and he's a pretty smart entrepreneur, great guy, super benevolent, gives back to the community big time. He is the center and the rock of the company. He's close to retirement, but he comes in every single day. He's our guiding compass, and everybody loves him. We call him Happy Jack. His
He
name's
comes
Jack.
in every day.
Every
He
day,
still comes in every day.
every
Wow.
day. And
That's
so when
beautiful.
I got out of college, he asked me to come work for him. And at first I wasn't going to, but he cajoled me into doing it. And
Big word.
he actually he actually did it the right way, and that was he made me learn the business from the bottom up. So
Yeah.
I was literally we were building homes. I was shoveling dirt underneath houses. I was driving equipment. I was putting in sewer pipes, water pipes, building wastewater treatment facilities. And with all due respect to him, he made me do it, but he doesn't know how to do any of it. He would always hire people, and so, but it was the difference, right? But
Right.
what made me wise enough in later in the years is that when I no longer was working in the fields and was hiring engineers and hiring subcontractors, I knew if they were doing it right or wrong.
Right.
And so we bought a piece of property that was a campground. It used to be called Eagles Landing Campground, and it's right here in West Ocean City. And it has these beautiful vistas of the Aztec National Seashore with the ponies. You can see the ocean, Atlantic Ocean on the other side, big bay in front of it. But when you drove in there, it was a complete dump. I mean, it looked worse than the Worcester County dump. It had potholes
Oh, God.
in the roadways that would swallow up my pickup truck, and it had septic systems all over the place that would percolate up into the ground, and it
Oh
was
my gosh.
it was absolutely disgusting.
That
And
is
so
disgusting, Todd.
the reason we bought it was we were going to convert it into an upscale housing community because
Okay.
it had all the entitlements and it had sewage there. We would just have to redo it. Well, we
Mm.
ran it for a couple of years while we were going through the entitlement process, and lo and behold, in this blighted state, and we didn't steal the property at all. We paid a handsome penny for it, but
Mm.
in the blighted state it was in, it was making money, and we're like, you got to be kidding
How
me!
is that happening?
How
Yeah,
does that happen?
miracle
And so,
property.
yeah, and so we thought about it, and the crash came,
Yeah.
and we decided that let's pivot and just build a world class campground there. And so we changed it, put in a state of the art wastewater treatment facility, welcome center, nice bathhouses, tons of cottages, and we went with a bohemian theme. So all of it was bright tropical colors. We
Mm.
brought in palm trees every year. We had a little tiki bar on the beach, and that thing just printed money
Mm.
right from then forward. And what happened was we would get a telephone call from a broker once a year, saying I have a buyer that wants to buy it. And I was like, we would be like, it's not for sale, it's not for sale, it's not for sale. So finally, in 2013, they called and said, well, we'd like to buy it, and we said, well, it's not for sale. And they said, well, how about if we make you an offer? And so they did it, and it ended up they offered me literally 40% more than I had it on my
Oh
personal
my
financial
God.
statement as being value. And so we sold it. And what happened was, and it's just our culture, it's how we are. We had some commingling of assets where a truck would be used at this, subdivision that we would use there. And at my personal farm, I had a backhoe that was nicer than the one that was at Castaways, and a whole bunch of instances like this. And I would always call up Son, who was the buyer, and say, well, how about I give you this instead of that one, because it's just nicer and it's
Oh.
better, and you need to do it. Well, when we walked out of the settlement the day we were there, uh, Gary Schiffman, who's become a great friend and is probably one of the nicest, most honorable, straight shooting Wall Street guys you'll ever know. And he's not a Wall Street; he's from the Midwest, but Detroit. But he's just an amazing human being. He said, Todd, this has been one of the greatest settlements and transactions that Son, at that time, that Son has ever done. He's like, we should do more of them. And I said, well, Big Gary, I really appreciate it. And I've had the time of my life. I was like, and I was being facetious, but I was like, I don't have $200 million in my pocket to go do more of these. He's like, well, if you keep treating me the way you are right now, and you keep doing what you're doing, he's like, yes, you do. And so from that point on, Son and
Wow.
I, Son became the big brother to Blue Water. And we just went around the country. We would go and find all waterfront assets, campgrounds, and either do straight ground up developments, or we would buy existing ones and reposition them.
Okay, so this is really interesting because you are coming at everything from, it sounds like who you and your dad are. It's just who you are. You're just generous and big-hearted, and it's not like you were trained in hospitality and then you apply these principles. And yet, in everything you do, your business transactions, it's just the way you treat people. It's like you live out from your values.
Well, I mean,
What a
and that's
novel
true.
idea, Todd.
Right. When we started Blue Water, there was 12 of us, right? And
Okay.
now, whether directly or indirectly, it's close to 4,000. And
Wow.
so we've it's emanated from that little core principle, and we've just been able to keep pushing that out as we grow. We love to hire from within and promote from within and have growth from within. We actually have a program called Blue Water University, where people
Yeah.
can come up, and we try to train from within and give everybody the opportunities of a lifetime. There's a lady that works for us. I can remember back when we did our first hotel. She was a she worked the breakfast buffet at a Fairfield Inn that we built, and today she's a regional manager driving all over the East Coast and has an amazing job, amazing career. She's been with us, I don't know, 10 or 15 years now. I love her like she's family. Um,
Wow.
and as some of the American dream success stories.
I'm speechless. If there were a template for how to build a life and build a business and transform people's lives, I think that you have your finger on the pulse of it. And what's remarkable to me is that it comes from such a simple value that you have put on repeat again and again and again, which is generosity. It's
Yeah,
generosity. It started with that, with over giving, or maybe pouring from a less full cup initially, right? Scenes for it started with transforming a property and then
right.
walking through a door and giving more and giving more and giving more. And it's it's absolutely inspiring.
Well,
It's remarkable.
well, thank you. But again, it takes an entire team, and it's everybody's committed to that philosophy. It's certainly
And here you are again being generous, right? And I understand because I've bootstrapped, every business I've ever had. And the only reason it works is because people are looking for a purpose. And when you can provide that for them and give them free rein and show them that you have confidence and allow them to grow,
right.
magical things happen, right? Because
That's right.
human beings. So, the fact that you've been able to do this at such a scale and impact so many people, it just makes me so happy because not everybody, very few people, I think, here's what I think. Very few people continue to do it. There's a lot of temptation along the way, and sometimes the vision in the heart gets lost and
Right.
people forget, and you have not done that. So I'm
Well,
very
thank you.
curious why you have a fly swatter on the wall behind you, prominently displayed.
I don't know, but I
To
should take that
abruptly change
down.
the subject, I thought maybe there was some kind of meaning, but
No,
I've been
no.
staring at this though.
It's probably one of my children. I don't know, messing with me.
Okay, so how about would you just share, like, since we're on the topic of transformation and all this stuff, how has this changed you? How has it changed you to move from, what you were doing initially, or and I know you're humble. Humility comes from learning, putting the shovel in the ground or being the dishwasher or whatever. But how has it changed you to move from there to where you are today from the
Well,
business?
I'll be honest. Other than my bank account, which I really don't care about. I mean, I actually I have a foundation set up, and I plan on giving away 90% of everything I have before I die. But other than that, I just stay true to my humble beginnings. I mean, I grew up in a little town of 600 people, and I was the Dennis the Menace of that town. Uh, I mean, I didn't do anything bad, but I jumped on the train and would drive it, on the grain train and take it all the way to the next town, and then turn around and come back, and the police would pick me up and take me home to my mom. And I never got in any trouble, but I was just a quintessential American kid, and I've been lucky, and I've had a lot of great influences in my life. And again, other than my bank account, nothing's changed, and I plan on being the same old redneck that I was when I was 5 years old that I am at 50.
What has kept you so humble? It's not. this is not your average human to respond like this. What has happened in your life that's allowed you to maintain perspective? You haven't gone off the rails, you haven't indulged, you haven't lost your humanity. And what has happened that allows this to be?
I don't, I, it's probably a large part of my personal upbringing. My mom, by way of example, she'll be here today. It's Wednesday, right?
Mm.
She comes every Wednesday and Thursday and helps me with my kids and loves to see them. And we all went on vacation together last week. And,
Wow.
she's just an amazing woman who, she'll put me in check. Don't worry. If I step out of line, she's not afraid at her age to grab my ear.
So you are essentially providing this family environment for all of these thousands of people because a lot of people don't have that kind of family. They're seeking that. They want community. They want a place where people hold them to their highest and best. I think that that has sadly diminished in our world. Like overall, there isn't much of a North Star. We're all free to just kind of, you
Yeah,
know, go down any
yeah,
path. So when you can provide that as part of your culture, it really creates that structure that people yearn for, even if they don't know it. It seems like you're creating this family environment that you came from for other people.
yeah. Well, and again, I just think if it starts at the top and it trickles down, and if you
Yeah.
listen, I say hello. I lead by. I'm a subservient leader, so I could tell you 1,000 stories and some of them are hilarious, but 1,000 stories. But when I go to a property and I walk around with my GMs or CEOs or whomever they are, I'm not too proud to pick up all the trash. I'll even do it before I walk in so that they recognize that if Todd can do it, then I should be doing it, right? And whether it's whatever it may be, pulling the weeds in the flower. I do it at the headquarters and at the hotels and at the campgrounds all the time. And I do it purposely so that the people see that Todd's doing it.
Yeah.
The other things that I do just on the business side is like even when we go to some of our properties that we have, I pay the full price and put it on my personal credit card because I want people to recognize that, it's not to be given away, right? You can't give it to your friends. And Todd's, if the owner is going to pay for it, then it's
Oh,
setting it's setting an example that people need to follow, and you have to do it day in and day out. Picking up the phone and calling up the CEO of the Commander Hotel and saying, the place is dirty around outside, go pick it up, is completely different than going over there and saying, hey Spencer, come walk with me around here. We're going to pick this up together. Next time I don't you don't necessarily need to be the person that does it, but just cause it to be done with me. Will you help me with that? Big difference.
tremendous difference. You I don't know that I've ever met anyone that is actually walking their talk with this much integrity. I don't mean to be like flattering you, or I just am legitimately amazed and impressed and encouraged because this is the way this is the opportunity we have as business owners, even if it's just a mom and pop, right? And often you
Sure.
find this kind of integrity within a mom and pop organization. But this is the opportunity that we have to literally change lives and to show people that character actually
Yeah.
makes a difference. If you don't
Right.
show them, it's just an operations manual, and
Yeah.
people feel the emptiness of that. We're so hungry for connection and show me, don't tell me, you know? So, wow, I am just I know I've said wow like 1,000 times during this, but I'm so happy to know this about what you are doing and the way you were so, generous with me and open to having yet another conversation. It is just so telling. So you're setting such a beautiful example. Okay, so as we close this out, because I know that I could talk to you for hours,
I
is,
could too.
is there something you would like? Do you want to tell us about what's in store for 2024? Do you want to share one of those fun, inspiring stories? What comes to your heart and mind that you'd like to leave everyone
So
with?
I'll tell you two things, maybe, if that's okay.
Yes.
Number one, one of the things that you probably heard me tell people 100 times is that I always try to tell my colleagues that there are people in this world that save for 360 days a year to go on a 5 day vacation to be able to take their kids. And
Yes.
we owe them the best that we can give them, right? So if I was from a different class, and I had my little boy and little girl, and I took them to Virginia to one of the campgrounds down there, and the experience wasn't perfect because the staff, or what I would call my colleagues, weren't perfect and generous and happy and all that. What's that do, right?
Mm,
That's ruining an entire person's year's efforts to give their kids one opportunity
yeah.
to spend the best vacation they have. So I always try to put that perspective into everybody's mind, because you never know where somebody's coming from. And it really doesn't matter where they're coming from. Everybody's deserve the best we can give.
Yeah.
But when you think of it in the sense of somebody who may only make $15 an hour, or whatever the minimum wage is anymore, and they're saving just to take their kid in a safari tent to a water park so that they can provide a decent life for them and give them an experience. I owe them everything I can give them. I do. Todd does, right? And so do you. And so I would hope that everybody in the hospitality industry recognizes that, because we owe our guests everything we can give them every single day, because you never know where they're coming from or what they've gone through or anything else. You owe them the empathy of it. You owe them the respect of being hospitable and greeting them and saying hello. Uh, and so I'll leave that part with that. And then I will tell you that there's probably going to be a giant announcement around Blue Water within the next 60 days.
Mm.
We're getting ready to do a JV with a really enormous family office and a couple other people, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of growth in Blue Water's future, and it's going to be a little bit different from what it looks like today, hopefully. Um, and again, it's all because of the amazing people that I've been able to surround myself with.
Well, I can't wait to hear. You're just giving us a little cliffhanger. That's a
A little
tease.
cliffhanger.
That's
Well, I'll
not a
tell you what.
story.
I tell
That's
you
it.
what, Michelle. When I'm allowed to make the announcement, I promise you this. I'll call you first.
Oh, really?
You'll
Okay.
be the first to know.
I'll hold you to that then.
I
So
promise you. I don't. I never forget.
I'm going to ask you to share one more thing as I
Okay.
look at the sign behind you, because nature is such a big part of what heals people and inspires them and allows them to experience, kind of their soul again. And
Hmm.
you guys are all about water. Can you just share a little bit about maybe how nature has impacted you and why you feel that's important? If you're a farm boy and like,
Well, that's just
tell,
it.
tell me a little about that.
Yeah. So when I was growing up, I told you about the little town, but one of the most influential people in my lives were my grandparents on my mom's side, and they lived on a farm 45 minutes away from where I grew up. And it was just free range, and I was able to be an outdoors kid, and I never was into Atari or any of that stuff. I was always outside fishing, hunting, hiking, building forts, doing all that good stuff. When we came up with Blue Water, it really wasn't intended to be what it was. Sometimes there's just these universal things that line up. And what happened was we always had this corporate mantra around real estate that waterfront is everything, and that if even though it's a little bit more expensive, water is a life-giving element, a breathing,
Yes.
life-giving, cleansing element that everybody's naturally drawn to. It's either the mountains or water, right? One of
Mhm.
the two. And so literally with I mean, our headquarters isn't on the water, but literally 98% of all of our assets, no matter what they are waterfront. And so that was, now that messes with you when insurance time comes around, but
Oh, for sure. That's
but
that's a fact.
if you think about this, and I'll give you an example too, even in Ocean City, but an oceanfront hotel to build costs the exact same, campground too costs the exact same as one that's not, as
Oh,
in
okay.
sticks, bricks, and everything else. The
Right.
difference, the difference is your land costs. But the big difference is that an oceanfront hotel you can get $600 a night,
That's right.
and an interior one with no real natural features or amenities, you're going to cap out at as a hotel world $200 a night. In the campground world, some of our campgrounds we get $195 a night for a campsite, not a
Wow.
not a VR, but a campsite where
Yes.
if it's interior, you're going to be $45.
Yes.
And so for all those reasons, we've just found the exponential value in waterfront, and that's where we've always gone.
Certainly, that makes so much sense, and it's the risk is worth the reward in
Yes,
any way you
yes.
look at it, for sure. That's wonderful. Oh my gosh, I have enjoyed this so much. I hope that you've enjoyed it
I've loved it.
a small percentage of how much I have. I It is just extraordinary what you have done and who you are, and sorry I'm gushing, but eh, to have when you have an opportunity to impact and influence so many people and you take it seriously and you do it with the highest and best values, what's better than that? You know?
Well, I'm
It
really
blows my mind.
Well, I'm very, very grateful for your time and all the great things that you've said, and it humbles me, and I'm
Mm,
thankful for them all. And listen, you and all your fans out there, anybody can call me anytime or email me. I'm happy to share everything. I'm about as transparent as anybody ever gets. I never I tell everybody I never even sign NDAs on our side. If people want them signed, I'll sign them for them. But I always had this theory that you know. Uh, you're either going to treat me right when I'm rounding first base, or
yes.
or you're not going to treat me right, and I'm just going to go with my gut. And sometimes you get burnt, but
Yeah,
most of the time, and I plan on living my life seeing it from a sunnier side. So
I like
that's
that.
the way we look at it.
Yes, I really align with that because why not? You know, at the end of the day, and I think we've all been burned. Anybody that's been in
Sure.
business, you trust and you get you get hurt. And yet at the end of the day, you're going to have to climb out of that pit. So why not just assume the best at all times?
Right. That's right.
Right? Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yes. Well, this has just been a delight. I appreciate your time. I appreciate who you are, everything that you have shared. Thank you a million times, Todd. And I